Hi, everybody. Tune in today and you're going to learn something about investing here that you probably didn't realize was available to you. So straight from Louisville Superior area, we've got a local expert that can help you understand how to invest in our own municipality using bonds and actually getting some tax benefits for it. So tune in and you will learn a lot.
So before we start this interview, I just want to add a disclosure because I am a Colorado registered investment advisor. I want to make sure to say that none of what I discuss in this interview should be interpreted as investment advice.
Sounds good. Awesome. Hi, everybody. I'm here today with Maithreyi Gopalakrishnan. She is the owner and founder of LiquidiFi. We are really in for a wild ride today because we're going to learn a lot about the bond market, which maybe to some of you might sound intimidating, but Maithreyi is going to break it down for us, and I'm fascinated, and I hope you are too. So I'm just going to kind of introduce, I just introduced you, but let's talk about a little bit about your background. I know you're from the 80027. You stuck around here for college and all that good stuff, but you have an app, you have a company. So why don't we go ahead and start with that?
Yeah, absolutely. We can just go ahead and start with what I've been doing for the business. So I was working at a quantum computing company, and we were exploring a lot of different applications for quantum computing in different industries. And one of the application areas was optimizing portfolios for the bond market. And because of the complexities around COVID with businesses at early stages raising money, I wasn't able to continue with that company anymore. But I developed this fascination, interest in the bond market. But when I talked to a lot of my friends and people in my network about this market, it was just surprising how little people knew about bonds and how to go about investing bonds. And I myself had quite a ramp up to figure out all of the complexities of the bond market, even though the bond market is actually over $120 trillion in size globally, and is really, really fundamental to everything in our communities. So
no, fantastic. Can you first for us define what is a bond?
Yeah.
Let's just start like kindergarten.
Sure. Okay. So I like to explain bonds as IOUs. So if I am lending money to a friend, I would make an arrangement with my friend to pay me back at a later date. But bonds are basically lending money to the government or to a company or to a city, like the city of Louisville or the town of Superior. And then they pay the money back at a later date. But in the interim, while you're waiting for the money, you are getting what's called a coupon payment or an interest payment. So in addition to getting your original investment at the end of the term, you're also getting these payments in between. So that's the way I like to explain bonds.
So better than going to a lender who would traditionally just take a payment, maybe monthly, quarterly, etc. The bond actually has a benefit to the borrower.
That's right.
The debtor. I'm not sure.
To the person who's actually investing in the bond, they're additionally getting interest payments.
Interesting. So so that's great to know about bonds. When you talk about helping people invest, you're focusing not on the stock market, which is equity, but you're focused on the bond market, just to make that super clear.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, great. And then tell us about the app you have developed, please.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear about that.
Yep. So I developed in 2021 an app to teach more people about the fundamentals of bonds and investing in the bond market. I found that when I was going to learn about bonds, I would read through these really, really lengthy articles about very detailed aspects of the market. And it really kind of put me off initially because it felt quite overwhelming to kind of delve into that level of detail. And so I felt like there's got to be a way to communicate this information in a friendlier, kind of more interactive way that's more intuitive for people as they're learning about this market. So I developed a series of videos that are really, really short in size, like 1 to 2 minutes, to teach people about different topics, as well as connected kind of interactive tools so that they could get a better intuition for all of the main things that they need to consider when investing in bonds.
Okay, does anything like this really exist? It seems like you're really kind of a unicorn here.
I haven't found any apps teaching people about the bond market yet. So I hope that this can be some source of help and education about this really giant and amazing opportunity to invest.
Right.
So.
And we're sitting here, just to kind of bring it down maybe to real terms, we're sitting here in the Louisville Library right now, and we talked off camera about how the library was built with bonds, right?
Exactly.
So do you mind going through like a quick example of what that means, how that works?
Yeah, so there might be a project that needs some financing behind it in a city. So say the Louisville Library needs some financing to be built or for renovations or anything like this. And there are a lot of different kind of buildings or infrastructure pieces in the city that depend on bonds. And so they issue these bonds after an extensive voting process. And then those bonds kind of go out into the world. People can purchase them. I think for municipal bonds or bonds issued by cities, they tend to be longer term. Like you tend to hold them for a couple of decades or maybe even 30 years. And then in that time, you're getting these payments.
Okay.
And one thing to keep in mind is if you're living in the place where you are buying the bond, if it's a municipal bond, some bonds are actually tax exempt, like the interest is tax exempt. So you can get considerable benefits in terms of taxes in that way. So
okay. And so you're raised in the 0027. Can you tell us where it all started for you?
Yeah, I moved here with my parents when I was 5 years old. So I think it was 1998 or 1999. And I went to Superior Elementary and grew up in Rock Creek. And then I went to school, to university pretty close at CU Boulder. And I'd make sure to come home pretty frequently because I just love this town and this community. It's absolutely the best.
Right. And you live in Superior now, right?
And I live in Superior now. So I was away for a few years, but then at the start of COVID, I was able to come back. And now my husband and I live in Superior, a 10-minute walk from my parents. Aww. So love being close to family.
Perfect. Well, awesome. I'm sure they're excited too.
Yes, absolutely.
What do you find most rewarding about your work?
Yeah. I love working with people that I have, like, they're a little bit nervous about putting their money into the market, to take that first little step and gain that confidence to begin investing. Or to maybe take a different path in terms of investing than they've taken before. It is terrifying to start investing. Like, we are seeing markets go up and down daily, especially this year. And that's a really scary thing to build up the confidence to put your money in. So I like to sort of be the steady hand that's kind of walking my clients through that process, not just in terms of the strategy for investing, but also just as almost like emotional, psychological support in navigating a market like this.
Oh, yeah.
So
that's
extremely rewarding.
I think that's very, very valuable too. Yeah. So I'm sure your clients appreciate that. Do you want to say anything about your special promotions we talked a little bit about?
Absolutely. So I charge both fees hourly and as a percentage of assets that I'm managing. So depending on which types of services you're wanting, I can go either way. For the promotion, I'm charging 0.5% of assets under management for all kind of aspects of your portfolio that I would be managing. So that's like traditional investment management, like managing a brokerage type of portfolio, as well as education planning, retirement planning, general financial planning, et cetera. And that would all be under that 0.5% of assets under management here. So that's the promotion. Yeah.
And do you mind sharing, do you have a minimum investment threshold?
Yeah, I don't. And it's important to me that I don't, because I really want to help newer investors, especially to feel like they have access to get into the market.
No, that's great to know. Yeah. Okay, Maithreyi. So somebody listening is ready to take the next step to investing their own money and would like to work with you. What's the next step with you?
Sure. So we would, of course, try to understand kind of what your goals are, what your risk tolerance is, et cetera. But I would be able to help you invest in a pretty wide variety of bonds. I don't just invest in bonds, but that is, as I said, my area of focus. So We can invest in treasury bonds, which are the more frequently traded bonds issued by the federal government, bonds issued by companies, organizations like that, or even bonds issued by our local cities or University of Colorado or something like this, where you're actually able to not only get the tax kind of benefits of investing locally, but also actually be able to invest in your own community.
Kind of wrapping up, you have maybe some social media. We can put a contact you slide at the end of the interview.
Yes.
We will have your social media links, any information, email, cell phone, landline, whatever,
Absolutely.
whatever
Yeah.
you want to share. We'll make sure that's up after this interview.
Sounds good.
Is there anything else you would like to share before we wrap up?
Yeah, one thing that I also love to do and find a really rewarding part of my work is teaching people about not just bond investing, but just investing across the board. And so I've conducted some education sessions with people in my network to teach them about all of these different aspects of investing. And so I'd love to do more of that in the community. So if anybody, an organization is looking to have more of those educational sessions for their employees, for their volunteers, et cetera, I would be happy to come in and do one of those. So please feel free to reach out to me as well about that.
That's wonderful. That's really great. That's because you've got a really interesting niche here, and it's great to get the word out. And it's just been wonderful, Maithreyi. So thank you so much for your time. And with that, we will just sign off and say
Sounds good.
bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Thank you so much.